Dr. Solomon has been a professor of biology at Gallaudet University for over 2 decades. She's also an adjunct professor at the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science and serves on master's and doctoral committees for research on increasing the participation of deaf and hard of hearing people within STEM. Can you share some do's and don'ts you wish the public would know about deaf and hard of hearing etiquette?
If you find out somebody is deaf, for example, maybe you're talking to us and you don't realize that we're deaf, and then you say, "Oh, I'm sorry that you're deaf." Or sometimes they'll say, "Never mind," and they'll stop saying whatever it is that they were trying to say. And I want to know what you were trying to say. It's important. So instead of saying "never mind," do continue to have that conversation and switch the mode of communication that you're having. Maybe write a note back and forth, text, or even type it out. I'm happy to answer your question. For example, if somebody is, driving or walking down the street, they might say, "Where's the grocery store?" I can answer that question. I can tell you the grocery store is, just down the street. All I need is for somebody to change the mode of communication. Also, when you are interacting with a deaf person who has an interpreter, ask your question directly to the deaf person, not to the interpreter. The interpreter is going to interpret for the deaf person, and look at the deaf person that you're talking to, not to the interpreter. It's important to have eye contact with the person you're having a conversation with, not the interpreter. And this is our language. This is how we communicate. It's functional and it's very important to us. I think often that when people say comments like that, it feels like they're not recognizing, that person is there. So for example, when I work in the science field, somebody comes up to me and they'll ask me about a sign rather than my work. And I have a lot of research work that I do in the science field and science environment. And instead they're making it about the language that I'm using. And I'm a deaf person first versus a researcher first. So those are some of the do's and don'ts that I would share when it comes to etiquette of interacting with a deaf person.
Dr. Silverman is a disabled activist and a social scientist who is passionate about improving public understandings of life with disabilities. Society understood and/or appreciated about blindness.
Well, I guess this goes back to what I was saying earlier. I wish that society would understand that blindness is not a death sentence. It's not sad. It's not scary. It's just a normal part of human diversity, and that blind people are capable of engaging in all the same kinds of life activities that sighted people engage in. We might do things a little bit differently, but we can work, we can have children, we can participate in sports, we can enjoy leisure kinds of activities. We can go to movies and listen to movies that are audio described, or with friends and family describing what's going on. We can enjoy movies, we can enjoy art, we enjoy traveling, all the same kinds of things that everybody else enjoys.
Thank you. Could you share a specific example of when you experienced ableism?
So my husband is sighted, and when we were dating, he was renting a basement apartment. So there was a landlord who lived above him, and sometimes I would come visit him, and so the landlord saw me come in and go downstairs and visit him, but the landlord didn't really know me as a person. He just knew that I was blind and that I used a cane. And my boyfriend at the time, told me that when he told his landlord that he was going to move out so that he and I could start living together, the landlord made a comment to the effect of, "I know you're a nice guy, but you can do better than that." And I consider that to be ableism, and I think it's interesting because it affected him, and he definitely had, I think, a lot of feelings about it, but it also affected me because this landlord, and I'm sure he had the best of intentions and thought he was being kind, but he made a judgment about me having never spoken to me or had a conversation with me. It was just based on my physical appearance that he saw through the window as I was going downstairs to visit his tenant. He made an assumption that I would not be a good partner for his tenant, or that his tenant was dating me out of kindness or something like that. And so I consider that to be ableism.
Tani Purewal was diagnosed with autism as a toddler. He received his undergraduate degree at the Art Institute of Sacramento and majored in media arts. He currently works for Amazon. Tani, can you share what misconceptions exist about autism that you wish were debunked?
Yeah, people just think we live in our own world, but what we really look for is an opening to join in on everyone else's conversations.
Can you share some do's and don'ts you wish the public would know about autism etiquette?
See, young adults in particular don't like to be talked down to as if they were children.
What do you wish society understood and/or appreciated about autism?
Yeah, we are creative and we can contribute to society.